The Irishman is a 2019 crime drama movie directed by Martin Scorsese, and it follows the story of Frank Sheeran, who gets involved with Russell Buffalino, which leads to working with Jimmy. So I had rated the book a 3 because I thought that it was confusing and it was hard to keep track of the characters, and I've never been really that good of a reader, so I was hoping that I would enjoy the movie. I found the movie to be really, really long. I really thought it was boring. I'm sorry. I probably give it a 3-star rating, just like the book. Just wasn't the biggest fan. I was still pretty confused by the characters. I obviously I knew who Russell was and Frank and Jimmy, but it was hard to keep track of all the characters like it was in the book. I know what Jimmy Hoffa looked like in real life, but I didn't know for a long time until we came across the photos in the book. So when I saw him in the movie, I don't think that he looked very scary. I thought he looked like a nice older man. One of my first thoughts was when we saw Frank, I thought he was a lot younger in the beginning of the book, and I thought that they left out a lot of the military background, which played a big role in him becoming a hero. I do think that they did a really good job with the FX and making them age older and making them look a little bit younger. I feel like there were some parts where you could kind of tell that De Niro wasn't as young as he should have been, but definitely in the end, I think that they did a really good job making them look older. I was a little disappointed with the portrayal of Bobby Kennedy, and I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more on JFK, and I didn't think that they were just going to add in like clips from when it actually happened. I thought that was an important moment because there was so much about Bobby Kennedy, and JFK was a huge part of history itself, and Jimmy Hoffa wasn't a huge fan of the Kennedys, so I thought that they should have maybe added a little bit more into that. There were just a few parts that I was really confused about. I think that if I hadn't read the book and I had watched when Jimmy Hoffa was put into jail, I would have been super confused because it took like 20 minutes after him getting into jail for them to mention that he was in jail for fraud. So that definitely was a part that confused my mom because she watched it with me and she didn't read the book. I think that in the book, the killing of Crazy Joe Gallo was a little bit more important than they made it in the movie. I had mentioned it towards the end when I was talking about it with my mom, and she was like, when they killed who? She like didn't even recognize or remember him really killing him, so I think that they could have made that a little bit more important. I realized that they didn't put in the part when Frank delivered the 3 rifles to Dallas right before JFK was assassinated, and I thought that that was important because that was the same gun that was used to kill him, and the fact that the movie was 3.5 hours long and they didn't bother to add that in just kind of bothered me a little bit. One other big thing that I thought that they forgot, I remember in the very beginning he had a glass of the red wine when he was sitting at the table talking to Russell, I believe, but they talked about red wine a lot in the book, and I think that a lot of people thought that Frank was a liar because he was drunk all the time and he always was drinking red wine, when throughout the movie a lot of the time he had like milk or a Coke or something in his hand. So I feel like that was something easy they could have added in by just having him hold that red wine in every scene that he had a drink. I was really surprised with the way they did the murder of Jimmy Hoffa. I thought it was going to be a little bit more dramatic than it was. It was just kind of boring. It wasn't exciting, but I also found it to be the part of the movie that was the most Hollywood fabricated because nobody really knows if Frank actually did kill Jimmy. There's no proof, and so many people have said through the years that he didn't do it. So I think that if they hadn't have added it in, it probably wouldn't have been as interesting of a story, and it definitely makes it more Hollywood. And then also, I thought it was a little bit Hollywood at the end when they talked about how the FBI had come into the nursing home when Frank was old, and they were questioning him and trying to get him to confess to the murder of Jimmy. I just wouldn't really see the FBI bothering to come in and talk to an old man in a nursing home. So overall, it wasn't my favorite. I don't think it was the worst, but if I wasn't taking an organized crime class, I would have been even less interested, and I probably wouldn't recommend it to my friends.